It's time to break down all the latest Florida State football news.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Welcome back into Locked On Seminoles. Thanks to everybody that is an everydayer. Please come back and check us out as often as you can. And make sure you hit that like button, that subscribe, and that notification bell, and share this podcast. We are free and available wherever you get your pods and on YouTube as well. Part of the awesome Locked On Network, your team every single day. Today's show is brought to you by LinkedIn College. Download the app. It is very easy to use. I can tell you that personally. And these days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. So here's everything I'm going to get into all in one big bunch. We're going to have a short show today as I get prepared for National Signing Day myself, which is tomorrow, Wednesday, December 20th. But there's a lot to get to in about a 10 to 15 minute show, so let's hit it. Here's the number one thing. NIL is coming up constantly. Every phone conversation, every text I have with or without Florida State being a part of the conversation. I talk to people about numerous programs. It is just everywhere, good a little bit, but 90% of the time it is bad. And what I mean by that, there's a lot of concerns with programs around the country regarding how much kids that are on their rosters are going to get what they expect and what the market is. I've said this a few times in some of the live streams here recently, and if you take nothing else from this podcast, take this. Every program is struggling with this in some capacity. They may not say it publicly, but too many kids want money, etc. And I don't know how much this is going to impact Florida State overall. I'll get into a couple of specifics here in a second, but this is something that I'm hearing constantly. It's not ironic, though, that tomorrow's National Signing Day as well, so that is also something to consider. That's going to impact that day as well. I'll also get to recruiting in just a few moments. So let's just talk about it. Joshua Farmer is in or out, who knows, with the transfer portal. He's denied it. He's said it to some people, etc. I don't know. I got a buddy who's a heck of a lot more connected than I am to Florida State. He has heard different things about the NIL, and I assume, I have no knowledge of this, so nobody quote me. I have no idea if it's just NIL or if he just wants to go somewhere else. But Farmer is a key component of the defensive tackle rotation. He's a starter. He's a dude. Losing him is not good. This is so difficult. I don't understand why. I mean, it's a great football team. You're 13-0. You're playing. You're a major part of it. Something's goofy. To me, it's got to be NIL. So I don't know yet, and I'm just finding out about it. I've been gone most of the day working on some other recruiting stuff, trying to get information, talking to people on the phone, multiple people, etc. I do not like where this is trending. And it goes along with what I said to open the show about programs having problems. This is just one guy, though. I think other programs have more problems than Florida State by a mile, but I don't like where this is trending. To that point, another player, and it's not shocking. The only thing that I'm surprised about didn't happen quicker. Jared Verse is not going to play in the bowl game against Georgia. He is opting out to prepare for the National Football League draft. I get it. He's a first-round pick, more than likely, at least in my opinion, and by most people that actually know what they're talking about. Great pass rusher. He can play the run, too. Good luck to Jared. He did a tremendous job in his 2 years with the Noles. He deserves everything he gets in the National Football League and more. Now, recruiting. Here it is. We're day before signing day. I'm just going to run down what I've heard, what I expect, and give some predictions. You can take it however you want. I've heard multiple things on different guys several times in the last week that I've reported here. It's not any different, but some of these stories, while they're not surprising to me, might be to you. That's why I'm passing them along. Take it for what it's worth. Number one, Armando Blunt. He's going to go to Miami. He's not going to sign with Florida State. I have talked to a gazillion people. Not one person has told me he's going to Florida State. Not exactly the greatest piece of information there. It's been out. I've talked about it a little bit in case you've missed it the last week. he's probably going to sign with the Canes. Again, everybody I've talked to said that. Here are some of the other guys. KJ Bolden. I've heard that if Amaris Mims or Amaris Williams signs with Auburn and or LJ McCray, he's probably going to go there. Then I talked to somebody else that said he's going to go to Florida State. The video that he had from Sunday, I forget which person it was, one of the 247 guys or whatever, had a video out. You can take that however you want, but he said he wasn't going to go to Auburn. I don't know what to say there. There's a lot of different rumors, but then another report came out today from On3 that they posted on Twitter that said he's still talking to Georgia, to Florida State, and to Auburn. I have no idea. When you get like 3 different things in a 48-hour period, it's time just to wait and see who he signs with. Just my opinion. I've got all the respect for him because it's a lot of pressure. He's a big-time safety and probably the best safety in the country. He's ranked number 1 by all 4 of the major services, ESPN, On3, 247, and Rivals. It's legit. Great kid to be around, but sounds like he's confused because he's got so many different opportunities and he's having a hard time to say no. That would be my guess. I have not spoken to KJ personally, so I'm just, again, making a stab at it. Jeremiah Smith. I don't know where he's going, but I have a path to where he's going. If Cameron Ward announces prior, like tonight, that he's signing with Miami or he's signing with Florida State, I think he'll go to one of those 2 schools. If he does not, and Jeremiah doesn't know where he's going, I think he goes to Ohio State, period. I have not heard anything else that makes me think anything. I've heard through the tea leaves that Jeremiah is going to go to one school or another because like coaches of those staffs think so. I've said this a bunch of times before on the show as well. Coaches always think they're getting everybody. That's just the nature of the beast. When I get sources, it's okay to have college coaches as sources, especially when a kid's visiting, like dates and all that. My best sources are 7-on-7 coaches and people that live in communities because they're less likely to have a bias. Hey, so-and-so is visiting this school. I don't think he's going to go there, but just so you know, he's visiting. Those kind of conversations are usually best. I know Miami feels good. I know Ohio State feels good. At one point, I haven't heard anything lately on Florida State's point of view with it, but they had one of the last visits with Jeremiah. I think it was his last official. Matter of fact, they got a chance to. But again, in my opinion, where Cameron Ward goes impacts him. And also, if he does not make a decision and or doesn't give Jeremiah any information, I think he goes to Ohio State. That's just where I stand on it. Kai Bates, all kinds of different players. They're going to get phone calls from the Alabamas and all that, all the DBs, Lester, like Colorado, etc. I haven't heard anything, but I also said earlier this week, at least one guy, good and bad probably, you're going to get, and one guy you didn't think you were going to lose, you're going to lose. That's everybody, Florida State included. There is no way around this. In today's world, teenagers, you have to be ready. Don't act shocked. Don't act shocked. They're teenagers. There's NIL. There's the transfer portal. Things change. Somebody that didn't think they had a path to playing time early, somebody just hit the portal at that school, and they're like, oh, maybe that chance is for me after all. These things happen. Make sure that you understand that. Don't be one of those idiots on Twitter or whatever shooting words at guys that are not old enough to vote yet. Don't be that person, because I've seen plenty of that in the last 48 hours, and it's really bad. Talking about competition here, really good trend for Florida State. Beating Georgia, beating Florida, and quite honestly, beating a lot of SEC programs in general. Just kind of looking at my list, I wrote down a bunch of the names the kids committed. I mean, Kai Bates, they flipped from LSU, just as because I used him a minute ago. That is huge. If you're not beating the SEC teams for recruits, you're not going to sniff a national title. You're not going to come in a stratosphere of it. Florida State is back in that mix. It's going to take 3 of these classes consecutively to be where they want to be. That's reality. There is no shortcut, and that includes the portal. You must develop your own guys so they all know the system the same way to be the top of your game. Florida State has circumvented it better than anybody with the portal, but you cannot count on that year in, year out. The other thing here, and It is huge. I'd mentioned this yesterday, I believe. Florida State hasn't recruited DN like they needed to. Marvin Jones is coming to Florida State. That is huge. Marvin Jones Jr., obviously, dad already played for the Noles. They need guys like that out of high school, though. They missed. He went to Georgia. They get him on the second round. That's cool. If you get guys like that, by all means. But at the same time, the expectation now is to start getting some of those guys straight out of high school. I need to find out next year with all this success, they should be able to get O-line, D-line spots they've missed in the last, say, 5 to 8 years. Need to see that happen next year, but we're not going to know about it yet. Right now, where this class is, it's as good as it could have been coming off a 10-3 season. Good, but not elite. And then finishing this year 13-0. If you're Norvell, you got to be happy. And as a Florida State fan, you should be thrilled. This is step one, though. Again, not 1 year, not 2. They need 3 of these consecutively at minimum to get to where they want to go. And also hit on key targets in the portal. Fewer of those guys, but still high in terms of upside. Like Marvin was a 5-star guy when he came out of high school down in South Florida. They need kids like him to come up and play at Florida State and be the kind of players they can be out of high school, preferably. But if you do get the portal, so be it. One last thing before I get out of here. I don't really know how Florida State's class is going to finish like anybody else because there's going to be those surprises I talked about. But I do feel that Florida State among the top 10 teams probably knows about as much as what they're going to get tomorrow as anybody. Kind of an ironic side part to this, but several teams and their coaches, we're talking about tracking 8 kids. Well, half of them we're trying to keep. 3 or 4 we might flip or they just have a decision. Florida State's got a few less, in my opinion, that it's truly open. Not like he's not committed yet, but everybody knows where they're going. It's a little bit easier. So I'm sure Norvell and his staff are pretty happy about that because, once again, they did a really good job. I will do a live stream on National Signing Day, probably going to do that around noon. That is my guess. I do not have a dead set time. It depends on what news I get tonight and early tomorrow morning, but I will put that up and it'll be previewed on YouTube. So if you want to check that out. Again, thank you very much for making this your first listen each and every day. Make sure you hit that notification bell and that like button. I'd appreciate it if you'd share this podcast and also subscribe. Everybody be good. I'll talk to you soon.